Hi, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Is this on? Yeah. My party people, how are you guys? Just checking in with you. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about storytelling and world building. This time around, I'm going to get straight into the topic and will not be yapping random stuff. So today's topic is going to be around storytelling and world building. It is something that I've been thinking about a lot, and I've been seeing repeated patterns in every single domain of my life, be it office, be it while I'm watching a movie, be it while I'm reading a book, be it while I'm talking to a friend who's probably talking about a trip, or be it me talking about a trip or about an experience to other people. So today we're going to talk about storytelling and world building. Now, I've actually seen this a lot in my normal conversations. It's when people say that they're not really good storytellers and they're bad at storytelling. I do not think that storytelling is something that you can be born with. It is a skill that you have to develop like any other skill. Nobody's born with it, right? Be it anything. It could be any skill. Nobody's born with any skill at all. And it's not natural, okay? It is something that you have to develop. Every single skill for that matter is something that you have to develop. So storytelling again and world building is a skill that people develop from time to time. There are engineers who think that storytelling is super tough because all they can do is engineer and collect data, and they think that nobody really cares about the story of their product and how their product landed from zero, like from scratch, to where it is right now. There are people who in their regular normal conversations start with the story and then they say, oh, I'm really sorry, I'm bad at this. There are writers who probably halfway through they stop writing because they think that they're not really good at storytelling. There are probably creators on YouTube who think that they're not good at storytelling, and so they give up. But storytelling really is a skill that you kind of develop over time, and you fail and you fix, 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 and you get better at it. I think something that's really important for everybody to know is that when you see or when you admire another person whom you're calling a natural storyteller, it could be a big leader who's really good at showcasing a journey. It could be a product manager, and their primary job is to sort of build the story around a product so that everybody can buy into it. So when you see people who are good at storytelling, you kind of assume that it's something that they're naturally gifted with, but you do not see the 10,000 hours of work that has been put into it. You're just seeing the tip of the iceberg, and you're kind of not seeing the amount of failures that they've probably gone into. And it's the same journey that you have to take when you're entering or discovering yourself in the journey of storytelling. It takes years, probably years of reading books and reading other people's stories. And dude, it's so hot. Oh my god. Reading other people's stories, endless drafts of bad articles or bad writing or bad speeches. And so there are some things that I've been reading about, a lot of articles around storytelling, a lot of psychology papers that I'm trying to reference. And most of them are studies done by psychologists who are trying to understand what really moves the masses when somebody's telling the story. So there's a very famous study that was done in 1993 by a psychologist named K. Anders Ericsson, and it is one of the most cited papers across the world of psychology. And therein they studied multitudes of musicians, artists, dancers, singers, actors, sports person, a lot of people in a lot of fields, and decorated people in all of these fields. And they studied these people thoroughly. And there is one thing that they found out which was common amongst all, which is that for all of these people who were excelling in their field, nothing was natural for them. They were not born this way. They had just practiced themselves into being this good at this stuff. So natural talent actually gets a very tiny percentage of what you actually turn out to be, because what really matters is the hours that you're putting into your skill. And there's a very famous quote, an overused quote, but super nice quote that goes, practice, I mean, no, what's that? Hard work beats talent when talent does not work hard. So hard work always wins. And it's the same with storytelling, and it's the same with probably a musician who has mastered playing violin for years. They're not naturally born with it. They've practiced and put in the work that now they're so amazing and terrific at it. And it's the same thing with storytelling. It's a skill that you have to practice and work on. So the people that you think are great storytellers, who are born storytellers, they're actually not born with it, but they've been practicing storytelling, or they've been naturally doing storytelling, or casually doing storytelling from probably the age of 6. Everything that they go about in life is like a storytelling session. So they go about their life like it's a movie, and they're always seeing a story, and they're always telling one. It could be any experience that they're experiencing, and these people, they've been telling stories throughout their life. So at dinner tables, at parties, at conferences, in office, in casual discussions, they're always sharing a story and just never throwing stuff on the table. And so with these people, they've actually had crazy times where really they've really killed a story, like bombed it, like nobody was listening to them. And that's how they've improved their game at storytelling and gotten better at it. It's so hot. Oh my god, it is so hot right now. I could literally drown myself in ice water. What a lot of people don't realize is that your brain literally runs on a narrative at all times. That's how your brain is wired to run. When you're quiet, your thoughts are still on, right? The tiny voice in your head is always talking, and it's narrating. It's not just speaking facts, it is narrating if you really think about it. A lot of study has been done in neuroscience about what happens when a storyteller is really telling a story, and what really happens to the listener's mind. So, what they've kind of realized is when the narrator is sort of painting a picture around a story and painting the journey of the character and painting the journey of a product, it could be anything. When the narrator is narrating the story, bless me. When the narrator is narrating the story, the listener, the brain activity that goes on the listener side is insane. They're sort of really mirroring whatever the narrator is painting. So quite literally, the brain of the listener starts mirroring the brain of the storyteller, and a sort of coupling happens, and this is what gets the listener locked in. And so the neural pattern that fires in the speaker's brain and subsequently re-emerges in the listener's brain, he calls it neural coupling, which is insane, right? It's crazy. And what's crazier is that the better the story, the stronger the coupling was. And when the story got weaker, the coupling got weaker, and they started losing the listener. Now, that gives us a lot of information to work with, first of all. It tells you that the more the listener understands your story and connects with your story, the more the listener stays logged in and does not phase out or zone out of your story. And as soon as the story starts feeling disconnected, the listener discontinues and snaps out of the world that you've built for them immediately. What does this really mean for you as a listener or as somebody who's trying to build this skill? It really means that your storytelling art is not performative, it is actually transmissive. You're supposed to transmit whatever you're envisioning inside your brain onto the listener. What you're essentially really trying to do is trying to move something that lives in your brain into the brain of your listener. And believe it or not, this is actually what our brains are naturally built to do. This is like really simple for our brains to execute, contrary to the general belief. Storytelling is not really just for entertainment. It is really how our ancestors survived through all of these times. It is how they were sharing knowledge to people that came after them. If you look into your mythology, whatever mythology you have and you believe in, you will see that great stories have been built and transferred generation to generation that have really kept rituals and beliefs alive. It's not just facts that have been transferred, because facts will die, because that your brain will not register them, but stories, they live forever, which is why you will always remember a story that your grandmother probably told you years back, and how you felt while you were listening to that story, but you will forget the data, like factual data that was probably fed to you 30 minutes before. So I think what really this boils down to is not a question about whether or not you can tell stories, but it's more about whether or not you have ever tried to tell a story. Because I think once you try to get into the habit of storytelling, you kind of start developing it like a skill, like any other skill. I think a lot of people, when they think about storytelling, they think about like very dramatic experiences in their life. It could be like a, a life changing experience, a near death experience, a very sad breakup, an amazing love story. It doesn't really have to be about that. It could really be about you commuting from your house to your work. It could be about what you had for dinner yesterday. It does not really have to be dramatic. You just have to view everything like an experience, and so that turns into a story. What you really have to focus or capitalize on is the character's journey, the gap that lives between point A to point B, how a character goes from point A to point B, the anticipation of what really happens in this character's life and how the character has reached point B. Now, here, the character could be anything. The character could be your product, the character could be you, the character could be an actor in the movie, the character could be anything. But it's the story that you're telling that really matters, that gets the audience going. So, if you connect anything with a journey, the audience is going to connect. But then there are rules and formulas around this too. So, researchers who study what makes stories psychologically sticky found three core ingredients. Right? One is vivid detailing, second is an emotional truth, and third is meaning. I think what's really common in the natural society is that we have always been taught to lead with what has been done and not how has it been done or what it felt like while you were doing it. But again, the brain does not remember facts at all. The brain only remembers how it feels and how you made it feel. And so research shows that stories are 27 times more effective than just sharing facts. I think the hardest thing that you kind of sort of have to reach while telling a story is the emotional truth that's attached to it, because you really have to delve into it, because you sort of have to find out what makes the other person tick, right? You will actually see this in a lot of great novels or shows, TV shows or movies or even animes for that matter. What the writers have really done is that they've tapped into whatever you are emotionally feeling. So even though it is a fictional world of their own, these characters, they don't really exist. These concepts, they don't really exist. Take Jujutsu Kaisen, for example. You kind of really want to see where the journey for this one character goes, even though curses and whatnot is not real. Take One Piece for that matter, or take anything. Take any show of your favorite personal liking. You only love that show because you could emotionally connect with that show, and the writer could really tap into your emotion, and that's how you were logged into their world and their world became real for you. So the emotional tapping and the emotional truth is probably the hardest part to come by. I think what really kills people when it comes to storytelling is that when they get super generic with their storytelling skills. How often is it that when people ask you how your weekend was, you just say, "Oh, it was great. I went out for lunch. I went out for lunch with my friends, and then we hit a bowling place, and then I came back home and had a chill, fun time." What are you trying to report here? Are you a journalist? Are you a reporter? What facts are you trying to report here? What a good answer or a hooky answer to this would be when you are actually narrating whatever you did in the weekend, like a story. You could be that I went to this Italian place that my friend recommended to me 6 weeks back, and she told me not to go there, but I still decided to go there. And guess what? It was really shitty. So, to resuscitate myself, I had to go out for bowling with my friends. And guess what? I did not win. And then I went back home and just had a chill time because, oh my God, it was a long weekend. How simple was that? That you just formulated a story and now you're an interesting person. It's that easy. And it's that easy to practice this. People who are really good at public speaking are never really speaking in facts. You watch any TEDx talk, they're not ever talking in facts. They're creating and building a story that you're locking into. So the only difference between the first weekend story and the second one is the drama that entered the second story. It's the narrative that enters the second story. And that's what makes the second story win. A good news, I think, is if you're the type of person who already sees the world differently or has an ongoing narrative in mind around every single thing, you kind of sense the shift in energies. You kind of sense it when people are walking by. You're thinking before you're speaking. Then you're already naturally cut out to become a naturally good storyteller because your worldview and your point of view is way different than a normal person. And something that I've kind of realized is that this really is not just specific to creative industry. That is, people who are in tech can also make great use of this. People who are in finance can make great use of this because our minds are processors. Our minds are consumers. Okay, they want to consume, and when you give a brain a story instead of facts, they eat it up. Like they literally eat it up. But if you're just showing facts, then the brain kind of skips it. Do you know what I mean? If you think about it, every doctor that's giving you a follow up is really building a story. Every engineer who's trying to come up with a product is really building a story. Every founder who's sitting in a room full of investors is not really just fighting with numbers, but they're also fighting with the narrative. They have to have a story. So it's always about the story, and it's going to be like that. So there was a quote that I have to find 1 second. Yes. It's by Morgan Housel, who's one of the best financial writers, by the way. And he says that the person with the best story wins and not the person with the best data. So it's always going to be a person that has the best story that's going to win. Your data might be great, but the story is always going to win. It happens in courts as well. And I think it was happening a lot when there were people sitting in the jury. They would always buy in the story more. Even though facts made more sense, probably evidence has made more sense, but the jury is naturally inclined to respond to emotion. And so people buy stories, they do not buy facts. Now, I have spoken a lot, but what do you do with all of this information? Number one, stop waiting for amazing dramatic stories to happen to you. There are stories everywhere in your life. Stop waiting for that dramatic moment to come into your life that you can turn into a story every day. From the point that you wake up, you brush your teeth, you probably do some stretches and work out a little, to how you make it to the office. It's all a story. So view it all as a story. Number two, do a little research, okay? Every now and then, try to see what captured your attention in normal world. It could be an ad, it could be a paragraph that you read, it could be a conversation that you had, but really make note of what is really grabbing your attention, and that is important information for you to build up on and train yourself on. Number three, and this is the most important: practice deliberately and frequently. Not just frequently, but deliberately. Give into it. Honestly, I don't see why people don't already do it. Like, you're the main character of your life, you're living in a movie, so why aren't you already talking about it like you're in a movie? I don't get it. But then again, it could be because I am a protagonist by personality type, so this is natural for me, and it's probably not natural for a lot of people. But I genuinely feel like I'm in a movie, and I'm definitely the main character, and everything's happening around me. Like, it's my world and everyone is just living in it, and that is how my life really plays out. Like, it's crazy, it's insane. It's really wow. That's me entering into another train of thought. I need to stop myself. Let's save that for another video. Personality types, protagonists, etc., whatever. yeah, so coming back, the third point was practice, practice, practice. Your one story, one interaction may be bad for you. Do not let it be your last. Keep practicing, keep practicing, keep practicing, keep telling stories in your everyday life. Talk to your friends, tell them the story, have a fun time. Fourth, I think feedback. Get real feedback from real people who can actually give you some good feedback and not just butter you up. In your life, you will find some people who will tell you your limitations and tell you your weaknesses so that you can work on them. Other people might really look and find out your weaknesses and use them to their advantage. Do not go for those people. Go to the people that will actually point out your weaknesses and your limitations, and people who actually want you to get better in life. Take real feedback from them. See how people are responding to your stories. Look at the micro expression. If somebody connects to some part of your story, that's just information for you. Okay, you know that, okay, this is where I think an emotional connect happened, so let's make sure that it happens again. That's information. So every little micro expression, everything that you get, every little feedback that you get, take that as an important source of information to build up for your next story. Always remember that you're in a feedback loop. Like throughout your life, you're in a feedback loop. Every single action that you're taking is gonna go through a feedback loop, and people are going to respond to however you made them feel. And so every little bit of that information is important. Also, wow, your entire life is a feedback loop. Take that down, note it down. Everything that you do comes with a feedback. It could be consequences, it could be emotional turmoil, it could be emotional relatedness, it could be anything, but it is always going to be a feedback. Wow. And then the fifth point is that you read, and you watch. And you do that with the crafter inside your brain on. So you're really reading and you're trying to study how beautifully this person has come up with this story, and so you can replicate it or replicate the blueprint in your life. Some writers are really good at writing romantic novels, some are really good at writing thrillers, and all of them have a structure that they're going about, and all of these people have a large group of audience who are buying into their world. So you kind of have to read and consume to understand what really gets the audience going. Watch TED Talks of people that you relate with, or great TED Talks with like crazy amount of views. You get a lot of information from consuming stuff like this. You see how a person is delivering a speech and how a person is trying to engage and connect to the audience. You just have to take that blueprint and kind of replicate it into your life. Always remember, people do not remember what you tell them, they only remember what you made them feel. So when you're telling a story, have an emotional connect with the person, with the audience, with whoever is the crowd in front of you, and you're almost going to nail it every single time. The ability to make someone feel something with a language is not natural, but it really is a superpower if you kind of gain mastery over it, and it's a great skill to have. It's gonna give you great benefits in life ahead. So always remember, a natural storyteller just has more practice than you, and they've probably failed in smaller rooms, and so now they're in the bigger room where you're listening to them and you're thinking, wow, what a great storyteller. But you know what, there's 10,000 hours of practice that has been put into it, and it's a skill that you can develop too. Happy storytelling, I guess. But again, before I stop this video, if you're new to the channel, welcome. We are in the rebellion in this moment to save the generation and heal the generation. That's my little life project, passion project that I'm working on. And welcome to the club. And if you're watching, and if you're already a subscriber and watching this because I popped up on your feed, thank you so much. I hope you really liked it. Do tell me what you all want me to think about or talk about in upcoming videos, or what you want me to cover. I have this one video that has been sitting in my drafts for weeks now. It is 45 minutes long. I just I have to edit it and put it out, because that's really me free flowing yapping on crazy topics like loneliness epidemic and personalities and different people, different experiences in life, and how you can build up a life that is amazing. It's about connecting with people who are elder to you so that you gain more perspective and stuff. And that's like a 45 minutes yap session, and I do not know how to post it. I think I will have to gain some courage to edit out the long thinking times that I've had, because when I'm thinking about stuff, I take like these long pauses because I'm really formulating and framing my thoughts around that subject. And that's me entering my train of thoughts and entering my mind palace, and it takes a while, man, to formulate a complete thought. So yeah. Uh anyway, I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. It is, guess what it is? Ooh, damn. I should be sleeping. It is 12:40 at night. 41 actually. No, 43. It's 12:43 a.m. And yeah, I'm going to head to sleep, but I love you all. Thank you all for coming. Mwah.